The turkey was still steaming when Mom's voice cut through the clatter like a knife. Another year, another empty chair beside you, honey. At 38, don't you think it's time to stop embarrassing us? Dad chuckled fork midair. Your sister closed a six-figure deal before dessert last Thanksgiving. What did you close? Another dating app. My perfect sister Claire leaned back in her designer blouse, lips curled in that trademark smirk, the same one she'd flashed 7 years ago when she stole my promotion, my fiancé, and my reputation in one viral email. 50,000 viewers on the family livestream were already typing laughing emojis. I felt every eye burn into me. The red live dot blinked like a heartbeat. My pulse thundered louder. Then I stood. The chair scraped like a gunshot. Actually, I said, voice steady, for the first time in years I'm married. Silence swallowed the table. Claire's smirk froze. I turned my phone so the camera caught the screen, a live video call. There he was, tall, tailored, the man whose signature could end Claire's entire career with one boardroom memo. My husband. Her boss. The CEO who'd quietly bought the company that paid her bonuses. Claire's wine glass slipped shattering crimson across the white cloth. Stick with me for the next 90 minutes. You'll watch every smug face crumble, every lie unravel, and one woman rise from the ashes of betrayal to claim a revenge so sweet the internet will never forget. Shocking twists, public humiliation, and justice served colder than the cranberry sauce guaranteed. Hit play. You won't look away. My name is Elena Harper, 38 years old, once the youngest investigative reporter to win a National Murrow Award, now a ghost who files freelance pieces under a pseudonym from a one-bedroom apartment in Chicago. 7 years ago, I buried my mother, and in the same week, my career, thanks to a single forged email that my sister Claire swore was just a prank gone wrong. I haven't crossed the threshold of the old farmhouse in Willow Creek, Ohio, since the day I left with nothing but a duffel bag and a heart cracked clean in two. The Greyhound hissed to a stop on the cracked county road, and the scent of wood smoke and fallen leaves hit me like a memory I never asked to keep. The house looked smaller than I remembered, its white clapboards gone gray, the wraparound porch sagging under the weight of too many Thanksgivings. A drone buzzed overhead, red light blinking, someone's idea of holiday ambiance. I hauled my suitcase up the gravel drive, boots crunching through frost-tipped grass, and told myself I could still turn around. But the screen door swung open before I reached it, and there stood Dad, thinner than the photograph's hair. Snow-white eyes bright with something that might have been pride, or just the reflection of ring lights. Elena. His voice cracked like it used to when he called us in from the fields. He pulled me into a hug that smelled of Old Spice and turkey brine. You made it. The stream's already rolling 50,000 and climbing. Stream. Of course. Dad had discovered the internet the way some men discover religion after a heart scare, late, loud, and with absolute conviction. He led me inside, past the familiar pine garland on the banister, past the framed family photos that now included Claire's glossy headshots, but none of mine. The dining room had been transformed into a makeshift studio. 2 softbox lights flanked the table like interrogators. A camera on a tripod pointed at the head chair, Dad's throne. Microphones the size of silver dollars sat in front of every plate. And there, centered in the frame, was Claire. She wore a cream cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my rent blonde hair cascading in influencer waves. When she smiled for the lens, the chat overlay exploded with heart emojis. Look who finally showed up. She sang Voice Honey over gravel. Our prodigal sister, Liv, and in person, I dropped my bag by the coat rack. The room smelled of sage and betrayal. Stepmom Linda, Dad's second wife, 15 years his junior, bustled in with a platter of deviled eggs, pretending not to notice the tension thick enough to choke on. My younger brother Jake hovered near the kitchen doorway, 29, now still wearing the same shy half smile he'd had at 16. He lifted a hand in greeting, then thought better of it and shoved both fists into his hoodie pockets. Dad clapped for attention the way he used to call hogs. All right, family places. We're live in 60 seconds. Remember the rules: 1 achievement per person, keep it uplifting, and let the viewers vote with likes. Winner gets the honor of carving the bird. He winked at the camera. And maybe a little something extra from the will. The will. Of course. Dad had been dangling that carrot since Claire's first viral post. I took the empty seat across from her, the same chair I'd occupied the night Mom died. The wood felt colder now, or maybe that was just me. Claire leaned toward her microphone, eyes sparkling for the audience. Before we dig in, I have a surprise. She reached beneath the table and produced a manila envelope thick enough to hold a small novel. This year, I'm giving the greatest gift a sister could ask for. She slid it across the lace tablecloth until it stopped an inch from my plate. Gold lettering on the front read, Deed Transfer. Harper Family Trust. Mom's 40 acres, Elena. All yours. Signed, sealed, and ready for your John Hancock. The chat went berserk. Hearts fire emojis, messages scrolling so fast they blurred. Sister goals. This is wholesomeness overload. Claire for sainthood. Claire for. I stared at the envelope. 40 acres. The north field where Mom taught me to drive the tractor. The pond where Claire and I once swore we'd build matching houses when we grew up. The land that should have been split 50-50, but somehow ended up solely in Claire's name after the funeral. I'd spent 7 years convincing myself I didn't care anymore. Dad beamed. That's my girl. Family first, right? Claire's smile never wavered, but her eyes flicked to the envelope and back to me, a silent command. I picked it up. The paper felt heavier than it should, like it carried more than legal weight. Inside the top sheet was a gift deed, my name typed in bold. Below it, clipped together, were pages I couldn't yet read without leaning into the light. Bank letterhead. Numbers in red. Elena, Dad prompted. Your turn. Tell the world what you've accomplished this year. 50,000 strangers waited. Claire's reflection in the camera lens looked triumphant. I opened my mouth, not sure what truth or lie might spill out, when Claire leaned close enough that only I could hear. Sign the papers tonight, she whispered, breath warm against my ear, or the world will hate you even more than it already does. The red live light pulsed like a warning. The red light held its breath, and so did I. Claire's whisper lingered in my ear like smoke I couldn't wave away. But the camera demanded a performance, and 50,000 strangers were the audience. Dad cleared his throat, the sound amplified through the tiny lavalier clipped to his collar. Claire, honey, why don't you kick us off, show the world what Harper women can do? He gestured grandly, as if the dining room were Carnegie Hall instead of the same pine-paneled space where Mom once graded our spelling tests. Claire straightened, smoothing an invisible wrinkle from her sweater, and angled her body toward the lens the way she'd practiced in 100 mirror selfies. Thank you, Daddy. She beamed, teeth bright enough to power the ring lights. This year has been about giving back, about mending what time tried to break. Her gaze slid to me, soft and syrupy for the viewers. 7 years ago, our family suffered a terrible loss. Mom's passing left a hole none of us knew how to fill. But land, real earth under our feet, has a way of holding memory, doesn't it? She paused, letting the chat scroll with nodding emojis. That's why I'm thrilled to announce live on our Thanksgiving stream that I'm gifting my sister Elena the full 40 acres Mom left us. All of it. Family stays together. The chat detonated. Hearts poured in like digital confetti, pink and red and gold. This is the content we signed up for. Someone typed in all caps. Claire Harper for president. Another declared. A donation alert chimed $100 from @FarmhouseFanatic with the message, Sisters healing the world, one deed at a time. Claire's follower count ticked upward in real time, a little green arrow climbing like ivy. She lifted both hands in humble gratitude, but her eyes never left the overlay numbers. I sat frozen fork suspended over untouched cranberry sauce. 40 acres. The phrase ricocheted inside my skull. Mom's will had been explicit: the north field to Claire the south field, and pond to me the house, and 10 acres surrounding it to Dad for life, then split evenly. I'd read the probate papers myself the week after the funeral, standing in the county clerk's office while Claire sobbed prettily for the local news cameras. How could she gift something that wasn't wholly hers? The answer arrived before I finished the thought because the viewers didn't know the will existed, and Claire had spent 7 years rewriting history one sponsored post at a time. Dad wiped a theatrical tear. That's my Claire, always thinking of others. He turned to the camera. Folks, let's show some love. Polls going live now who deserves this land. A graphic popped up on the secondary monitor. 2 headshots side by side. Claire's was professionally lit, cheekbones sharp. Mine was a candid from the bus window hair frizzed by humidity, eyes narrowed against the flash. The bar beneath Claire's photo filled instantly a tsunami of green. Mine crept to 3% and stalled the digital equivalent of a participation ribbon. Claire clasped her hands beneath her chin. Elena, say something. The world wants to hear your gratitude. Gratitude. The word tasted like rust. I set my fork down with deliberate care, the clink swallowed by the microphone's sensitivity. I wasn't aware any gift was on the table, I said, aiming for calm and landing somewhere near brittle. Mom's estate was settled years ago. A ripple of confusion crossed Dad's face, gone as quickly as it came. Claire's smile tightened by a millimeter. Details. Details. She laughed, waving a manicured hand. The important thing is family reconciliation, right, Dad? Dad nodded vigorously. Absolutely. And speaking of family, let's make this interesting. He leaned forward, elbows on the tablecloth Mom had starched every Sunday. You all know I've been thinking about the future, my future, your future. The farm, the investments, the whole kit and caboodle. He paused for dramatic effect the way he used to when announcing chore rotations. Tonight's achievements aren't just bragging rights. The person with the most likes by the end of dinner inherits the lion's share. Everything. Consider it motivation to shine. The chat loved that too. Dollar signs replaced hearts. This is better than reality TV. Someone posted. Claire's eyes gleamed. She was already calculating angles, lighting sound bites. I felt the room tilt the way it does when you stand up too fast after too little sleep. Inheritance. The word carried the weight of every hospital bill Mom never lived to pay every college loan I'd taken to chase Pulitzers that never came. Claire had turned our grief into content, our legacy into a game show. Linda bustled in with the turkey golden and obscene on its platter, steam curling around her nervous smile. Jake finally took his seat beside me, close enough that I smelled the mint gum he chewed when anxious. He nudged my knee under the table once, twice a childhood code for, I've got your back. I wanted to believe him, but 7 years is a long time for loyalty to stretch. Claire accepted the carving knife from Dad like a queen receiving a scepter. Before we eat, she said, let's give Elena a moment to absorb her good fortune. She reached beneath the table again, this time producing a thick cream envelope sealed with crimson wax. The overhead lights caught the embossed crest Harper Family Trust, same as the deed teaser. She slid it across the tablecloth with the slow reverence of a priest offering communion. Lace dragged beneath it, whispering. The envelope stopped directly in front of my plate wax seal, gleaming like a drop of blood. Open it live, sweetie, Claire said, voice pitched for maximum warmth. Let the world see your face when you realize how much you're loved. The chat counter surged past 60,000. Somewhere in the house, a second camera drone adjusted its angle to catch my reaction in 4K. I stared at the envelope, at the elegant script spelling my name, and felt the old fracture in my chest widen just enough to let the past seep through. Claire's smile never wavered, but her fingers drummed once against the table, 3 sharp taps, the same rhythm she'd used in high school when she wanted me to know the fix was in. Open it live, sweetie. The envelope sat there like a loaded gun wax seal, gleaming under the ring lights. But Claire's 3-tap rhythm snapped something loose inside me. I had spent 7 years swallowing every bitter word, every sleepless night, every freelance invoice that barely covered rent. The camera wanted a reaction, and for once I decided to give it one that wasn't scripted. My fingers closed around the envelope, but instead of breaking the seal, I pushed it aside, the scrape of heavy paper against lace loud enough for the table mics to catch. Dad's eyebrows rose. Linda's platter of rolls froze midair. Claire's smile flickered a single frame of uncertainty before the mask slid back into place. Actually, I said, leaning toward my own microphone until my reflection filled the lens. There's something the world should know before any gifts change hands. My voice didn't shake the way I expected. It came out flat Midwestern, the tone I'd used in courtrooms when deposing sources who thought charm could outrun facts. 7 years ago, my sister forged a story that ended my career. The room inhaled. Jake's knee stopped bouncing under the table. Dad's mouth opened, then closed the way it did when the tractor threw a belt, and he couldn't decide whether to swear or pray. Claire's eyes widened, not the practiced doe-eyed shock she saved for brand deals, but genuine alarm that flashed and vanished. The chat overlay, which had been a lazy river of hearts, stuttered. Then the dam broke. Laughing emojis poured in, first yellow faces doubled over tears streaming. Someone superimposed a clown wig on my bus window headshot. Bitter much? Scrolled past in neon green. Classic loser energy. A donation pinged $5 from Matt at Truth Hurts with the message, "Get therapy, not land." Within seconds, the pole bar beneath my name shrank to a sliver, the green bleeding out until only 1% remained, a lonely pixel pulsing like a dying star. Claire recovered faster than I anticipated. She pressed both palms to her cheeks, shoulders curling inward, the universal posture of a woman wounded. A single tear, perfectly timed, perfectly placed, traced the curve of her cheekbone and hung at the edge of her jaw before dropping onto the tablecloth. "Oh, Elena," she whispered, voice trembling just enough for the mics to catch every quiver. "She's always been jealous." The tear fell. Ever since we were kids, if I had something, she wanted it. The scholarship, the boyfriend, the corner office. She looked straight into the camera, eyes shimmering. "I thought tonight could heal us. I thought wrong." The chat rewarded her with a tsunami of crying emojis turned protective. "Don't let her ruin your night, queen." Block and move on. Claire's pole bar surged past 90%. Dad reached across the table to pat her hand, his own trembling slightly. Now, he murmured, but the words were for the audience, not for me. Linda set the rolls down with a clatter, then busied herself rearranging napkins that didn't need rearranging. I felt the old heat rise in my throat, the same burn that used to fuel 12-hour stakeouts and red-eye flights to chase leads. But this wasn't a newsroom. This was a stage, and the script had been written without me. Claire dabbed at her eyes with the corner of a linen napkin, smudging mascara just enough to look authentic. "I forgive you," she said loud enough for the back row. "Family forgives, as if I were the one who'd planted the forged email in my editor's inbox, the one who'd watched my byline vanish from the masthead overnight. I opened my mouth to push back facts, dates, the paper trail I still kept in a locked firebox, but the chat was already moving on. A super chat popped up, $50, glowing gold. "Claire, ignore the hater. Drop the deed, and let's eat." The drone camera swooped lower, angling for Claire's tear-streaked close-up. Jake shifted beside me, his chair creaking. Under the tablecloth, his knee pressed mine again, deliberate this time. I felt something small and hard slide across the wood-plastic edges, a USB port. His fingers brushed mine as he withdrew the contact there and gone like a secret. I closed my hand around the drive, its weight surprising for something so small. Jake didn't look at me. He stared at his plate as if the mashed potatoes held the answers to every question we'd never asked aloud. Claire accepted a fresh napkin from Linda, blowing her nose with delicate pathos. "Let's not let old grudges ruin Thanksgiving," she said, voice steadying into the warm register that sold skincare and kitchen gadgets. "Elena, whenever you're ready to accept the gift, the land is yours. No strings." The lie hung in the air, sweet as pumpkin pie, and the chat ate it up. Dad cleared his throat again, louder this time. "All right, folks, let's keep the blessings flowing. Jake, son, your turn." He gestured magnanimously, but his eyes flicked to the viewer count, 62,000 and climbing. Jake mumbled something about a new job in tech support, barely audible. and the chat rewarded him with a smattering of thumbs up before returning to Claire's orbit. I slipped the flash drive into my pocket, the plastic warming against my thigh. Whatever was on it would have to wait. The table was a minefield now, every word a potential detonation. Claire carved the turkey with theatrical grace, steam rising around her like stage fog. Each slice she laid on a platter felt like a countdown. The pole locked at 1% beneath my name, a digital gravestone. As Linda passed the gravy boat, Jake finally met my eyes. His lips barely moved, shaping words meant for me alone. Play this tomorrow. Tomorrow. When the cameras might sleep, and the chat might thin. When the house would be quiet enough to hear the truth, whatever shape it took. I nodded once the smallest motion, and reached for the green beans as if nothing had changed. But everything had. The flash drive burned against my leg like a promise, and Claire's smile across the table looked suddenly brittle, a porcelain mask waiting for the right hammer. The green beans tasted like nothing but... I chewed anyway, buying time while the flash drive pulsed against my thigh like a second heartbeat. Claire finished carving, laying the last slice of breast meat onto Dad's plate with the reverence of a priest at communion, then turned her attention back to me. The envelope still waited, wax seal unbroken, a prop in her carefully staged production. She nudged it closer with one finger, the way you might slide a treaty across a war room table. "Go on, Elena," she coaxed, voice pitched for the microphones. "Open your present." The viewers are dying to see that smile. 65,000 now, the counter claimed, a living organism feeding on every second of tension. Dad sipped his water, eyes flicking between the chat overlay and Claire's performance. Linda hovered with the gravy boat, refilling glasses that didn't need refilling. Jake kept his head down, pushing peas into a neat mound. I set my fork aside and reached for the envelope, feeling the weight of every gaze in the room and beyond it. The wax cracked beneath my thumb with a soft pop, the mics amplified into a gunshot. Inside was the deed, crisp and official, my name typed in bold beneath Claire's looping signature. 40 acres boundaries described in meaties and bounds that still lived in my muscle memory, the old oak at the northeast corner, the creek that flooded every spring. But clipped beneath the deed, paper-clipped like an afterthought, were 3 more pages on heavier stock. Bank letterhead. First National of Willow Creek. The words acceleration clause jumped out in red, followed by a balance due $2,000 and change. A lien notarized and recorded 6 months ago, secured by the very land Claire claimed to gift. The final page was a quitclaim form, blank except for a line awaiting my signature. Transfer the title to me and the debt transferred with it. I read it twice, the numbers refusing to rearrange themselves into anything less catastrophic. $2 million. Claire had mortgaged Mom's legacy to the hilt, probably for one of her influencer retreats, or a down payment on the condo in Columbus, and now she needed a new name on the hook before the bank called the note. My name. My credit. My future. Claire leaned forward, elbows on the tablecloth. "Isn't it perfect?" she asked the camera. "Elena gets the land free and clear, just like Mom would have wanted. Free and clear." The lie was so bold it almost sounded true. I flipped to the lien summary and held it up to the lens, angling so the chat could read the balance. "This says otherwise," I said, keeping my voice level the way I once did when confronting city councilmen who thought charm could bury corruption. "This is a $2 million mortgage. Signing this makes me responsible for the debt, not the owner of anything free." The chat stuttered, hearts replaced by question marks. Claire's smile froze, then cracked. "That's just paperwork," she said quickly. "A formality." The bank assured me. She stopped, realizing the hole she'd dug. Dad set his glass down hard enough to slosh water onto the lace. Linda gasped, a small, theatrical sound that might have been genuine. I slid the quitclaim form across the table, face up, so the blank signature line glared at the camera. "Then you sign it, Claire. Take the debt yourself if it's such a formality." The room went still, except for the soft whir of the drone adjusting focus. Claire stared at the paper as if it might bite her. "Elena, don't be dramatic," she hissed, forgetting the mics for a moment. "This is live." "Exactly." I looked straight into the lens. I refuse to sign. This isn't a gift, it's a trap. Claire's face flushed crimson, the color rising from her collar like a thermometer about to burst. Ungrateful, she screamed the word, exploding out of her with such force that Jake flinched. She slammed both palms on the table. Silverware jumped. After everything I've done for this family, you accuse me on camera. Tears sprang to her eyes again, but this time they looked less practiced, more like the ones she'd cried at 16 when Mom grounded her for sneaking out. You're bullying me in my own home. The chat pivoted instantly. Reports flooded in red flags, angry faces, the word bully stamped across my frozen image. Cancel her. Protect Claire. A moderator badge appeared beside a username I didn't recognize, and within seconds my poll bar vanished, entirely replaced by a warning triangle. Dad watched the viewer count dip 63,062.5 and said nothing. His silence was louder than any scolding he'd ever given. He simply stared at the numbers the way farmers watch storm clouds gather over newly planted fields. Claire stood chair, scraping backward, and pointed a trembling finger at me. You always ruin everything, she spat. Mom would be ashamed. The invocation of Mom hit like a slap, but I didn't flinch. I folded the lien papers carefully the way I once folded sources' documents before locking them in a safe. Claire's chest heaved, mascara streaked. Linda reached for her, murmuring soothing nonsense, but Claire shook her off. I slipped the entire packet deed lien quit claim into the inner pocket of my jacket, the paper crinkling against the flash drive Jake had given me. The weight felt right, like evidence I could finally use. Claire lunged as if to snatch it back, but Dad's hand shot out, closing around her wrist. Enough, he said quietly, the first word he'd spoken since my refusal. His eyes never left the viewer counter, now steadying at 61,000. Claire collapsed into her chair, sobbing theatrically for the audience. I pushed back from the table, the legs of my chair groaning in protest. The drone followed, hungry for more drama, but I was done performing for Claire's script. I walked out of the dining room without another word, past the garland that smelled of pine and betrayal, into the narrow hallway where the ring lights didn't reach. The air was cooler here, scented with old wood and the faint must of unpacked boxes. I leaned against the wallpaper Mom had chosen the year I left for college. Tiny yellow flowers now faded to cream, and pulled out my phone. My hands didn't shake. I opened the streaming app I hadn't touched since my last freelance gig, created a new channel titled Alina Unfiltered, and hit go live. The hallway mirror reflected my face back at me, eyes too bright, mouth set in a line I barely recognized. 30 seconds later, the viewer count ticked to 1, then 5, then 20. I held up the lien papers to the camera, the bank's letterhead clear, even in the dim light. Stay with me, I said to the handful of strangers who had followed me out of the fire. The real story starts now. In the dining room, Claire's voice rose in a fresh wail, but the walls muffled it into something almost human. My phone screen showed 100 viewers, then 200, the numbers climbing faster than I could track. I pocketed the deed and started walking toward the stairs, the live stream following like a shadow I finally controlled. The hallway stairs creaked under my weight, the way they always had. Each step a small betrayal of the house's attempt at silence. My phone screen glowed with the fledgling live stream, 250 viewers, now their usernames scrolling in a thin white ribbon. Curious refugees from Claire's circus. I reached the landing, turned left toward the guest room that used to be mine, and closed the door with the soft click Mom insisted kept ghosts out. Only then did I let my shoulders sag. The lien papers rustled in my pocket like dry leaves. The flash drive felt heavier, a black pebble of possibility. I sat on the edge of the narrow bed quilt, still the same faded log cabin pattern, and pulled out my laptop from the suitcase. The ancient machine wheezed to life, fan rattling like an old dog with a cough. My phone, propped against a tissue box, became a makeshift tripod, the live stream still rolling viewer count, nudging 300. I gave them a tight smile. Give me 2 minutes, folks. Evidence doesn't unpack itself. A few thumbs up drifted past. Someone donated $1 with the note. We believe you. The kindness stung more than Claire's screaming. My phone buzzed against the quilt text, Not notification. Jake. The preview showed only the first line. She faked my gaming channel for ad revenue. Proof on drive. I opened the message fully. A second text followed instantly, a screenshot of a PayPal transaction, $87. $432.11, deposited to Claire's account labeled Jake the Gamer Q3 sponsorship. A third text. She used deepfake filters on my face. I was in rehab. Open the drive. Rehab. The word landed like a stone in still water. Jake had vanished for 6 months last year, claiming a coding boot camp in Seattle. Claire had posted daily updates, clips of Jake's speed-running Elden Ring voice modulated to sound younger eyes, too wide, laugh too loud. I'd watched one out of sibling duty and thought he looked tired. Now I knew why. I ejected the flash drive from my pocket and slid it into the laptop's port. The folder opened to a single video file in a spreadsheet. I clicked the video first. It was time-stamped 3 weeks ago, Claire in her home office, ring lights off, hair in a messy bun. She spoke to someone off camera. Overlay Jake's avatar on the green screen, boost the saturation 10%. Viewers love the underdog arc. The responder male, Young, laughed. Chat buys it every time. Another $50K this month. Claire nodded, tapping a calculator. Easy. Family moments sell. The spreadsheet was a ledger of lies. Columns for date, platform, content type, revenue. Row after row. Jake's 24-hour charity stream, $42,000. Dad's tractor repair tutorial, $38,000. Mom's recipe reveal anniversary, $61,000. Totals at the bottom, fives, $187,334 for the calendar year. $5 million built on moments none of us had lived. I scrolled to the final tab, tax forms. Claire had filed as sole proprietor of Harper Family Media, LLC. Every cent funneled through her, every tear and laugh monetized. Downstairs, the dining room stream still rolled. I could hear the muffled rise and fall of Claire's voice through the floorboards, soothing her audience back to calm. I opened the secondary monitor tab on my laptop. 60,000 viewers, exactly the number, frozen like a held breath. Claire was passing by, apologizing for the family hiccup, promising a Black Friday giveaway to make it right. Dad chuckled at something off camera, the sound hollow. I dragged the deepfake clip into my editing software, trimmed it to 30 seconds. Added a simple text overlay. Real family moments. My hands moved with muscle memory. I'd thought rusted shut years of cutting investigative packages in windowless edit bays. The export took 12 seconds. I uploaded it to my new channel with the title, Thanksgiving Truth Number 1. Description. My sister's empire built on lies. More tomorrow. The upload finished. I refreshed the live stream. Viewer count 98. 99. 100. In 60 seconds flat, 100 strangers had clicked from curiosity to witness. Comments poured in. Is this the same dinner? She faked her own brother. Where's the rest? Someone donated $5. Keep going. I stared at the screen, the blue light harsh against the bedroom's shadows. $5 million a year. Claire had turned our childhood into a factory, our grief into inventory. The liens suddenly made sense. She'd leveraged the farm to fund production, confident the revenue stream would cover payments until the next viral hit. When the bank tightened the noose, she needed a new name on the loan, mine. Another text from Jake. There's more on the drive. Sleep light. I looked at the bedroom door, the old brass knob Mom had polished every spring. Claire's voice drifted up again, brighter now, promising signed cookbooks to the first 100 super chatters. 60,000 people eating dessert while the house burned around them. I closed the laptop, the screen's glow dying to black. My phone livestream showed 112 viewers, the counter still climbing. I angled the camera toward the window where moonlight silvered the frost on the glass. That's all for tonight, I said softly. Tomorrow we open the rest of the box. I hit end stream, but not before uploading one fake clip to my new channel, Claire's Office Confession, 30 seconds of truth detonating into the void. 100 viewers in 60 seconds. A spark. I slipped the flash drive into my bra, close to my heart where Claire couldn't reach, and listened to the house pretend everything was fine. The house settled into its nighttime creaks, the kind that used to scare me when I believed monsters lived under beds instead of across dining tables. I lay fully dressed on the guest room quilt boots, still on the flash drive, a hard knot against my ribs. Sleep refused to come. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the lean balance in red ink, $2 million hanging like a guillotine. Downstairs, the livestream had ended hours ago, Claire's final sign-off. A syrupy promise of tomorrow's gratitude giveaway. I'd watched the viewer count freeze at 61,000 before Dad killed the lights. Now the only glow came from my phone propped on the nightstand, its new channel ticking past 800 subscribers, while I dozed in and out. I sat up the mattress springs, groaning in protest, and pulled the envelope from my jacket. The wax seal was already broken, but I hadn't studied the fine print under proper light. I switched on the bedside lamp, a fringed relic from the 80s, and spread the papers across the quilt. The deed looked innocent enough, boundaries inked in surveyor's precision, but the bank letter clipped beneath it told a different story. First National of Willow Creek official letterhead dated 91 days ago. Notice of default and intent to foreclose. The property, Mom's 40 acres, had missed 3 consecutive payments. Final cure amount, $2.047, 112.34. Grace period expired. Auction scheduled for December 28th, unless satisfied in full. The quitclaim form was the trap. My signature would accept title as is, including all encumbrances. In legalese, I'd inherit the land and the foreclosure clock. 90 days to pay $2 million or lose everything to the highest bidder. Claire hadn't offered a gift. She'd offered bait. Sign and the bank would chase me instead of her. Refuse and the land slipped away anyway. Either way, her debt vanished. I folded the letter with shaking fingers, the paper cutting a thin line across my thumb. Blood beaded bright against the white. The house was too quiet. Even the grandfather clock in the hall had stopped years ago. I needed air. I needed answers. I slipped the papers back into the envelope and padded downstairs, avoiding the third step that always squeaked. The kitchen smelled of cold turkey and congealed gravy. Moonlight through the window painted the counters silver. Claire stood at the sink, back to me, rinsing a wine glass with mechanical precision. She wore silk pajamas the color of champagne hair twisted into a knot. The ring lights were off, but her phone propped against a cereal box still recorded vertical private story mode, the red dot blinking. She didn't turn when my shadow crossed the tile. Couldn't sleep, little sister. Her voice was soft, almost kind, the tone she used for brand apologies. I set the envelope on the island between us. 90-day default. Auction in 5 weeks. Explain. She shut off the tap, dried her hands on a dish towel embroidered with Mom's initials. It's complicated, she said finally, facing me. Without the lights, her makeup looked caked, eyes puffy from earlier tears. Real ones this time, or close enough. Content creation is expensive. Equipment editors travel. The farm was collateral. Collateral you never told anyone about. I tapped the envelope. This makes me liable the second I sign. Claire's laugh was low, almost fond. You always were the smart one. She stepped closer, the island no longer a barrier. Sign or I'll ruin you again. One post, one leaked email, one deep fake of you screaming at Dad. The internet forgets nothing. Her eyes glittered in the moonlight. I built an empire on family. Don't make me tear it down with you inside. The words landed like fists, but I didn't flinch. 7 years of freelance anonymity had taught me silence could be a weapon. I picked up the envelope. Good night, Claire. She called after me as I climbed the stairs, voice rising into something shrill. You'll crawl back. They always do. Back in the guest room, I locked the door, leaned against it, and opened my phone. The channel sat at 950 subscribers. I hit go live again, angling the camera to show only my face and the envelope. Quick update, I whispered. The land isn't a gift. It's foreclosure bait. Details tomorrow. I held up the default notice, letting the red ink fill the frame. Viewers jumped 989,91,000. 1,000 strangers in the dark with me watching the trap spring. I ended the stream heart-hammering and slid the envelope under the mattress with the flash drive. The clock on my phone read 11:57. I killed the lamp, lay back, and listened to the house breathe. Claire's footsteps passed my door. Paused, moved on. Water ran in the bathroom. A door closed. Silence. At midnight, exactly, the doorbell rang 3 sharp chimes that shattered the quiet like glass. I sat bolt upright. Through the window, I saw headlights sweeping the drive, 2 sets, then a third. A pickup truck with a bank logo stenciled on the door. Men in reflective vests climbed out, clipboards glowing under flashlights. The repo team, 5 weeks early. Downstairs, Claire's scream cut through the walls, raw and animal. Dad's voice boomed after her confused demanding. I grabbed my phone, hit record, and crept to the hallway. The doorbell rang again, insistent. The bank had come to collect. The doorbell's third chime still echoed when I reached the hallway phone, already recording in night vision green. Downstairs, Dad's silhouette filled the foyer bathrobe, flapping like a flag of surrender. Claire darted past him in silk pajamas, hair wild, and flung the door open before anyone could stop her. 3 men in navy windbreakers stood on the porch, breath fogging in the November air. The lead agent held a clipboard and a flashlight that swept the living room like a searchlight. Harper Residence. We're here for asset verification prior to accelerated foreclosure. Claire's voice cracked. You're early. The notice said December. The agent didn't blink. Bank policy. Default triggers immediate inventory. Behind them, a flatbed idled in the drive winch, ready for whatever they planned to haul away, first the tractor, the combine, maybe the porch swing Mom loved. I slipped down the stairs barefoot on cold wood phone, angled to catch every face. Dad turned eyes wide when he saw me filming. Elena, go back to bed. I ignored him and hit go live on my channel title typed in the dark Thanksgiving fraud live. The stream connected. Viewer count rolled from 0 to 50 in the time it took Claire to slam the door on the agents. She spotted my glowing screen and lunged. Turn that off. I sidestepped into the dining room, the same dishes and ring lights still in place from dinner. My phone, propped against a candlestick, became a tripod. Everyone meet the bank. I said to the camera, voice steady despite the adrenaline. They're here because the 40 acres my sister tried to gift me are 91 days in default. I held the lien letter to the lens, red balance glaring. $2 million. My signature would have made me liable. Hers stays clean. Chat exploded. Question marks, fire, popcorn. Someone typed, holy plot twist, in all caps. Claire's face went the color of the cranberry stain on the tablecloth. She bolted for the router cabinet under the stairs, yanking cables like weeds. The main house Wi-Fi blinked out. Dad's leftover stream died mid-archive. But my phone ran on cellular bars strong from the tower on the hill. Claire realized too late. Dad, make her stop. Dad stood between us, hands raised like a referee. I'm not choosing sides in this circus. His voice carried the weariness of a man who'd spent decades avoiding conflict between daughters. He glanced at the agents now photographing the barn through the window, then at my phone where viewers climbed past 1,000. Let the girl talk, Claire. You opened this door. I opened the laptop on the dining table flash drive, already inserted. The deepfake clip from Jake's folder loaded in seconds. Claire in her office directing an editor to overlay Jake's avatar on a gaming stream he never played. I hit play for the camera. Her own voice filled the room. Make him look exhausted. Chat eats up redemption arcs. The clip ended on her satisfied smile. I cued the next Dad's tractor tutorial timestamped during his hospital stay for knee surgery. The man on screen wore Dad's flannel but had Claire's editor's eyes. Chat flipped like a switch. She faked her dad. This is next level fraud. Donations pinged $5, 10, 20. A super chat glowed gold $100 with the message, "Expose her." My viewer count surged 2,035. Claire watched the numbers the way sailors watch storm clouds. She tried the router again, fingers fumbling with the power cord, but the agent's presence kept her from unplugging the whole house. I kept feeding the stream. Bank notice lien summary. Claire's tax forms showing $5 million in revenue from staged content. Each document held steady for 10 seconds long enough for screenshots. "This isn't family," I told the camera. "This is a business. And the collateral is about to be repossessed." Outside, one agent measured the front porch with a laser tape. Claire's empire built on borrowed land, and borrowed faces teetered on the edge of collapse. 7,000 viewers. 8. Claire's phone buzzed non-stop, probably her manager, her sponsors, the brand reps who'd paid for authenticity. She silenced it with shaking hands. Dad poured himself water from the pitcher, drank half, set it down, untouched. I didn't know about the loan, he muttered, more to himself than anyone. The admission hung in the air like smoke. I uploaded the tractor deepfake to the stream highlights, titled it, "Proof Number 2. 9,000 viewers. 10,000 in the time it took Claire to cross the room. She reached for my phone nails, scraping the tablecloth. "I'll sue you for defamation," she shrieked, voice raw from earlier theatrics. Her fingers closed around the case knuckles, white. The screen showed 10,012 viewers. The counter frozen on her threat like a photograph. Claire's grip on my phone was a vice, her manicured nails digging into the case as if she could crush the stream itself. The screen flickered under her thumb, 10,012 viewers frozen on her snarl. Dad stood motionless by the router, the agent's flashlight beams cutting through the windows behind him like prison searchlights. I wrenched the phone free, the motion sending Claire stumbling into the dining chair. She caught herself, chest heaving, and for a moment the only sound was the low hum of the flatbed outside. Then she straightened, smoothed her pajamas, and reached for her own device on the sideboard. "You want truth?" she said, voice suddenly calm, the switch so abrupt it chilled the room. "Let's give them the original." She opened an app I recognized, cloud storage, the same one newsrooms use for raw footage. Her fingers flew across the screen, uploading with practiced speed. A document appeared in her private story first. Then she shared the link to the Family Channel's community tab. The thumbnail was a court seal, faded but official. "Franklin County Common Pleas, 7 years old." My name in bold beneath plaintiff Claire Harper. Defendant Elena Harper. Libel. The judgment summary loaded next, $50,000 awarded to Claire for false and defamatory reporting. My own words, twisted in legalese, quoted back at me. I remembered the day the verdict came down. I'd stood in the courthouse hallway, editor on speakerphone telling me the paper wouldn't appeal. The story about Claire leaking proprietary ad data to a rival firm had been solid sources triple-checked, but one email chain turned out to be doctored. By Claire, though, I couldn't prove it then. The settlement wiped my savings, ended my staff position, sent me into the wilderness of pseudonyms and ramen. Claire had framed the check, hung it in her first condo. The chat on my stream wavered like heat over asphalt. The gold super chats slowed. Someone typed, "Wait, she sued her own sister." Another, "Maybe Elena's the liar." A poll Claire must have prepped earlier popped up on her channel. Who's telling the truth? My bar started at 0. Claire's at 98. Within minutes, mine crept to 10%, then 15% as viewers cross-referenced the docket number. The agents outside paused their inventory, one shining his light on the barn door as if the drama inside might be contagious. Claire held her phone aloft like a trophy. "See? She's done this before. Accuse, destroy, move on." Her voice cracked artistically on the last word. Dad rubbed the back of his neck, the gesture he used when the combine broke down and the parts store was closed. "Claire, honey, maybe we all need to cool off." But the viewers were heating up. My stream hit 11,000, then 12, the influx from Claire's share backlink. People love a grudge match. I kept the camera steady on the court document, letting silence do the work. The judgment was real. The context wasn't. I'd paid the 50 grand from my signing bonus money meant for Mom's medical bills. Claire had used it to launch her first sponsorship deal. Linda appeared in this doorway robe, cinched tight hair in curlers like a 1950s sitcom mom. She'd been married to Dad 5 years long enough to know which battles to avoid. She hovered, wringing her hands, then edged closer to me while Claire read viewer comments aloud in a triumphant monotone. Linda's whisper barely stirred the air. I have 50 more fake videos. I turned. Her eyes were wide mascara smudged from sleep. On a drive in my jewelry box. She made me film Dad's surprise birthday party when he was in the hospital. Used a body double. 50 videos. A vault. I felt the shift inside my chest, the old reporter's instinct waking up. Claire was still monologuing, promising a tell-all thread at dawn. My poll climbed 20% 25 as viewers dug into the old case, found the appeal denial, the sealed depositions. 30%. Claire noticed her voice faltering mid-sentence. Linda slipped something small and cold into my palm. A second USB pink crystal casing, the kind teenagers use for school projects. Breakfast, she breathed. Play them at breakfast. She keeps the only backup in her office safe. Then she was gone, retreating to the kitchen as if she'd only come for water. Claire's poll dipped to 75. Mine hit 40%, exactly the bars, neck and neck for the first time all night. The chat split into factions: Team Claire, with crying emojis, Team Elena with magnifying glasses. Someone donated $200 to my stream. For the sequel. The agents outside finished their photos, one tapping on the window to hand Dad a receipt for site visit. He signed without reading. Claire lowered her phone, the glow illuminating the hollows beneath her eyes. "This isn't over," she said, but the threat sounded tired. My viewer count held steady at 14,000, the poll locked at 40% like a dare. Linda's USB weighed nothing in my hand, and everything in possibility. I pocketed it beside Jake's drive and killed the stream with a nod to the camera. "See you at sunrise," I told the darkness. Claire watched me climb the stairs, the court document still glowing on her screen like a scar. Linda's whisper echoed in my head, 50 videos, breakfast safe. The night wasn't finished with us yet. Linda pressed the pink drive into my hand more firmly. "Use it at breakfast." The pink USB warmed in my palm like a secret heartbeat as I climbed the stairs. Linda's words looping in my mind. Breakfast safe, 50 videos. Sleep came in fits, the kind where you wake every hour, certain the house is on fire. At 6:30, the smell of coffee dragged me downstairs. The dining room had been reset overnight. Tablecloth bleached ring lights, repositioned, a fresh backdrop of autumn leaves taped to the wall. Claire sat at the head in a crisp white blouse. Makeup flawless smile dialed to morning show brightness. Dad buttered toast beside her eyes, bloodshot. Jake nursed black coffee at the far end, giving me a nod that said, "Ready when you are." Linda bustled with platters of scrambled eggs and bacon, her curlers replaced by a neat bun. Claire's phone was already live, propped on a stand, viewer count at 42,000 and climbing. "Good morning, family," she chirped to the camera. "After last night's misunderstanding, we're starting fresh with gratitude and gravy." She gestured to the spread as if bankruptcy agents weren't sleeping in their truck across the road. Dad managed a weak thumbs up. The chat scrolled with sleepy hearts. I took my seat, both USB drives in my pocket like loaded dice. My own phone leaned against the orange juice pitcher livestream running silently. 8,000 viewers from the midnight crowd hungry for round 2. Claire passed me the syrup. "Sleep well, Elena." Her tone suggested I'd spent the night in a ditch. Like the truth was finally free, I said, and hit play on my laptop, synced to the phone stream. The screen split left side. My feed right side, a montage I'd stitched together at 3 a.m. From Linda's drive. First clip, Claire and an editor in her home studio rehearsing a screaming match over inheritance. "Make it uglier," Claire directed. "Chat pays for tears." Second clip, same fight. Different day, same lines delivered to a body double wearing my old college hoodie. Third, Claire paying the double in cash, whispering, "Next week we do the cancer scare." The montage ran 90 seconds each frame, timestamped metadata intact. I let it loop once without commentary. The dining room went still except for the sizzle of bacon. Dad's toast stopped halfway to his mouth. Claire's smile calcified. My viewer count jumped 10,012. Claire's chat, visible on the big monitor, began to stutter. Wait, that's scripted. I sent her $50 for that fight. Reports trickled in red flags, multiplying like mold. The platform's automated system pinged strike one for coordinated, inauthentic behavior. Claire lunged for the laptop. That's taken out of context. She yanked the power cord. The screen went black, but my phone kept streaming via cellular. I'd mirrored the feed to a cloud folder overnight. The montage resumed on every device in the house, Dad's tablet, Jake's phone, even the smart fridge. Linda had given me the master password months ago for emergencies. Chat reports became a flood. 10,000 in 2 minutes. The platform issued strike one publicly, a banner across Claire's channel, under review. Her viewer count, which had crested 50,000 at the smell of bacon, began to bleed. 48. 45. A super chat popped on my stream, $500 with the message, "Keep the receipts coming." Claire's poll from last night reappeared now at 30% for me, 60 for her, 10 undecided. The gap narrowed with every refresh. Claire tried damage control. These are bloopers, folks. Behind-the-scenes fun. But the timestamps didn't lie. 3 years of bloopers, all monetized. Another clip auto-played Claire staging a pregnancy reveal with a fake ultrasound editor, adding tears in post. The chat turned savage. I bought her baby registry. Class action when? Reports hit 20,000. Strike two flashed across her banner. Dad set his knife down with a clink. Claire turned it off. She ignored him, fingers flying across her phone, trying to delete to private to ban. Too late. Her main channel hemorrhaged viewers 40,000, 38:35 in the time it took Linda to refill coffee. 10 minutes from montage, drop the counter froze at 30,000, exactly then plummeted to 29 as the platform throttled her live privileges. A third strike loomed. My stream hit 25,000, the montage on endless loop. I finally spoke. This is what $5 million a year buys: fake fights, fake tears, fake family. Claire's face crumpled, not for the camera this time, but for real. She looked suddenly small in the oversized chair. Jake slid the butter toward her like a peace offering she didn't deserve. The front door knocked 3 measured raps official. Dad rose to answer. A man in a navy suit stood on the porch, briefcase and handbank logo gleaming. Harold Harper. I'm Regional Manager Kessler. Auction on the 40 acres begins in 1 hour. We'll need the family off the property by 9. The bank manager's words hung in the foyer like frost, his polished shoes leaving wet prints on Mom's braided rug. Dad stood frozen, hand still on the doorknob, while Claire darted past him to the porch, as if she could negotiate with the weather. I followed with my phone livestream, rolling 28,000 viewers and climbing. The driveway had become a stage, 2 flatbeds parked nose to tail, a white auction tent, already half-erected orange cones marking the 40 acres like a crime scene. Men in reflective vests unloaded folding tables, and a portable PA system, their breath pluming in the cold. One unrolled a banner. First National Foreclosure Auction. 800 a.m. Sharp. Claire's voice cracked across the gravel. Daddy, tell them to wait. She clutched Dad's sleeve, silk pajamas ridiculous against the dawn. You have the money. Pay the $2 million. It's our land. Dad stared at the tent, the banner, the men who moved with the calm efficiency of undertakers. Linda hovered in the doorway, arms wrapped around herself, while Jake filmed from the steps with his own phone insurance, he mouthed when our eyes met. Inside the dining room, monitors still glowed. Claire's channel limped at 29,000 viewers, strike banners pulsing like wounds. Mine had surged past 35 on the breakfast montage alone. I propped my phone against the porch railing, framing the repo circus. Welcome to the final act, I told the camera. The empire falls at 8. Claire dragged Dad toward the tent. You said the farm stays in the family. Her voice carried the same panic she'd faked in 100 videos, only this time it was real. Dad shook her off gently. I said the highest liked heir gets my money. He spoke to the gravel, not to her. That was the rule. You set the game, Claire. The auctioneer arrived in a black pickup cowboy hat and clipboard voice already warmed up. He greeted the bank manager with a handshake and began testing the microphone. Feedback squealed, then settled. Bidders trickled in. Neighboring farmers in Carhart, a developer in a Tesla, curiosity seekers with lawn chairs. The repo team finished setup, stringing caution tape from the mailbox to the barn. A digital clock on the tent read 7:42. Claire tried again, kneeling in the frost, hands clasped like a child. I'll pay you back. Every cent. Just stop this. Dad looked past her to the monitors visible through the open door. My stream hit 40,000. Claire's 28. The gap widened with every refresh. Likes don't lie. He muttered the phrase he'd repeated all week. He walked inside, shoulders rounded, and took his seat at the head of the table as if breakfast were still happening. I followed, phone in hand. The family fractured on camera in real time. Jake set his device beside mine, dual feeds, 50,000 combined. Claire stumbled in after Dad, mascara streaking. You can't choose her, she told him, voice breaking. She'll ruin us. Dad poured coffee with shaking hands. The viewers choose, always have. The auctioneer's voice boomed outside. Ladies and gentlemen, we begin in 15 minutes. Minimum bid satisfies the lien. $2,047,112.34. Claire sank into her chair, staring at the monitors. My stream crossed 45,000. Hers, 27. The chat on both channels turned feral popcorn fire $signs. Someone super chatted me $1,000 for the knockout punch. Linda brought fresh biscuits nobody touched. The clock ticked to 7:50. Claire refreshed her phone, obsessively watching sponsors pull ads in real-time. Kitchenware Skincare, a Christian lifestyle brand. Each cancellation pinged like a gunshot. Dad finally spoke. I have 3 million liquid. Enough to save the land. But only one heir gets it. He looked between us, the weight of 70 years in his eyes. Whoever the internet crowns. My stream hit 48,000. Claire's 26. The numbers danced on the screens like a scoreboard. Outside, the auctioneer called for registration. Bidders lined up with cashier's checks. Claire stood chair scraping. This is insane. She grabbed Dad's arm. Pick me. I'm the one who stayed. Dad pulled free. You turned us into content. Elena's turning it back into truth. The words landed soft but final. Claire's face collapsed. She looked suddenly 25 again, the sister who'd borrowed my prom dress and returned it stained. My stream crossed 49,000. Hers 25. 7:55. The auctioneer took the podium, gavel in hand. We'll open the bidding at the dead amount. Do we have 2 million? Silence from the crowd. The bank manager nodded to a proxy bidder in a gray suit. My phone hit 50,000, exactly tied with Claire's dying channel. The chat on both feeds went berserk, split-screen chaos. The auctioneer scanned the bidders, then the cameras pointed at the house. Seeing no opening bid, we'll entertain minimums. He raised the gavel high, wood catching the morning sun. Do I hear $1? The auctioneer's gavel hovered, the $1 question hanging in the crisp air like a dare. My phone screen showed 50,000 viewers, exactly mirrored on Claire's dying feed. Dad's eyes flicked between the monitors and the tent outside, the weight of his promise pressing down. Claire sat rigid, knuckles white around her coffee mug. I felt the moment stretch, elastic and dangerous, then snap. I stepped onto the porch, phone, raised, live stream capturing every frost-tipped blade of grass. $1, I called, voice clear across the gravel. The auctioneer's eyebrows shot up. From the lady in the doorway. Do I hear $2? Silence from the bidders. The developer checked his watch. The farmers shifted boots. The bank manager whispered to his proxy, who shook his head. I walked forward, boots crunching, until I stood beneath the tent. My stream surged 52,055. But first I told the camera and the crowd, the lien must be satisfied. I pulled an envelope from my jacket, not the forged deed, but a cashier's check drawn on a Chicago credit union. $2,047,112.34. Exact to the penny. Gasps rippled through the tent. Claire bolted from the house. Silk pajamas flapping, Dad trailing. "Where did you get that?" she demanded, voice shrill enough to scatter crows from the barn roof. I handed the check to the bank manager. 7 years ago, I won the National Journalism Award for a series on corporate fraud. The prize was $2 million. I never touched it. Interest compounded. The manager examined the check, nodded to the auctioneer. Lien satisfied. Title clears for minimum bid. Claire's face drains of color. You can't. That's my land. I turned to the auctioneer. $1. He banged the gavel once. Sold to Elena Harper for $1 plus satisfaction of debt. The deed transferred in 30 seconds, electronic, notarized on the spot, the bank's tablet glowing with my new ownership. 40 acres free and clear mine by right of payment, and the absurd theater Claire had built. Both streams exploded. My viewer count rocketed past 60,000. Claire's plummeted to 15. The platform's banner flashed across her channel: account terminated. Violation of community standards. Permanent ban. Years of content, millions of followers gone in a digital guillotine. Claire stared at her phone, the black screen reflecting her shock. She dropped it. The case cracked on the gravel. Dad stood between us, the checkbook he'd never opened still in his pocket. "It's done," he said quietly. Linda appeared with a coat for Claire, but Claire shook her off. Jake filmed from the porch steps, his own channel now at 10,000 subscribers. The repo team began packing cones, the auction tent folding like a defeated circus. Claire found her voice. "You stole my life." The scream tore across the yard, raw and ragged, echoing off the barn. She lunged at me, fingers clawing for the tablet with the deed. I stepped aside. She stumbled, caught herself on the auction table. The chat on my stream, 70,000, now filled with fire emojis and justice memes. Claire collapsed to her knees in the frost silk pajamas, soaking through the weight of her empire, crushing her from the inside. She collapses. "You stole my life." Claire's knees hit the gravel with a thud that silenced even the crows. Her scream still ringing against the barn like a cracked bell. The auctioneer tipped his hat and walked away. The bank manager folded the satisfied lien into a leather folio. Dad stared at the frost as if it held instructions. My phone, propped on the porch railing, showed 80,000 viewers, and climbing the chat, a blur of shock and celebration. I felt the cold seep through my boots, grounding me in the absurdity of owning 40 acres for a single dollar, and a truth I'd carried 7 years. Jake appeared beside me, coat over his arm. "Inside," he said quietly, "before she freezes." Claire remained on the ground, silk dark with dew, muttering numbers, followers, revenue, sponsors, as if reciting a rosary. Linda approached with a blanket, but Claire slapped it away. Dad finally moved, offering a hand she ignored. He let it drop. "House meeting," he announced to no one in particular. The repo trucks rumbled to life, hauling away the tent and cones, leaving only tire tracks and the faint smell of diesel. We filed indoors. The dining room felt smaller now, the ring lights harsh on tired faces. My live stream rolled on 90,000 viewers. I set the phone on the table, lens facing the family. Dad pulled a legal pad from the sideboard, the same one he'd used for grocery lists and harvest yields. "Relatives are watching," he said, voice gravelly. "Time to vote." He opened a group video call. Uncles in Florida, aunts in Cleveland, cousins scattered from Denver to Des Moines. 23 faces filled the laptop screen, morning coffee in hand, eyes wide. Uncle Ray spoke first, retired Marine, no nonsense. I saw the montage. Claire turned us into puppets. Aunt Marlene nodded, pearls clicking. The land stays with Elena. She paid the debt. One by one, they raised virtual thumbs 23 for me, 0 abstentions. The chat on my stream mirrored the vote hearts and fire pouring in. Dad scribbled on the pad, then reached for his fountain pen, the one Mom gave him on their 30th anniversary. I, Harold Harper, being of sound mind, revoke all prior wills. He wrote in steady strokes, the pen scratching loud in the quiet. Everything house remaining acreage investments to Elena Harper, effective immediately. Claire staggered in from the porch blanket, forgotten hair plastered to her cheeks. "You can't," she whispered. Dad didn't look up. Witnesses Jake and Linda signed beneath his name. I added mine last, the ink still wet. Dad folded the page, slid it into an envelope marked urgent. Attorney. "Notarized tomorrow," he said. "Locked out tonight, Claire. You've got 10 minutes. She lunged for the envelope. Jake blocked her. "It's over." Claire's eyes darted to the monitors. My channel crossed 95,000 subscribers, the bell notification chiming every second. Her banned account showed a gray tombstone account suspended. She backed toward the door, slippers leaving wet prints. Dad changed the smart lock code from his phone, 4 beeps final as a coffin lid. Claire tried the handle. It refused to turn. She pounded once, twice, then slid down the glass forehead against the pane. My stream hit 100,000 subscribers, exactly the golden bell animation filling the screen. Donations rolled $5,000 in 10 minutes. The relatives ended the call with waves and promises to visit. Dad poured whiskey into coffee mugs, passed them around. To truth, he toasted. We drank. Claire's silhouette remained outside, a ghost in the dusk. Hours later, the house dark except for the porch light, a shadow moved along the hedge. Claire, coat over pajamas, clutching a manila folder. She knelt by the side door, sliding the folder through the mail slot. I opened it under the kitchen light, a single sheet, her handwriting neat despite everything. Job application. Cleaning position. References available. Willing to start immediately. She sneaks back at dusk with a job application. The manila folder lay on the kitchen tile like an abandoned confession. Claire's handwriting trembling across the single page. I picked it up, the paper still warm from her grip, and read the sparse lines twice. Name, contact, prior experience. Content creator. Manager. Editor. At the bottom, a scrawled note. Available immediately. References upon request. The house was quiet. Dad asleep in his recliner. Jake upstairs editing highlights for his own channel. Linda washing the last of the auction day coffee mugs. My live stream had ended hours ago at 120,000 subscribers, but the phone still buzzed with notifications. Interview requests. Sponsorship offers, strangers asking how to start their own truth channels. I opened the side door. Claire stood on the mat, coat buttoned to the throat, breath fogging in the porch light. Her eyes were red-rimmed but dry. The mascara long cried away. She didn't step inside. "Hire me as your cleaner," she said, voice flat, stripped of every influencer lilt. "I'll do anything. Floors, laundry, windows. 15 an hour. Cash." The words came out rehearsed as if she'd practiced them on the walk from wherever she'd hidden since dusk. I studied her, the sister who'd once stolen my prom date, my byline, my future, and felt no triumph, only the hollow space where anger used to live. The 40 acres were mine now, the will rewritten, the empire ashes. She had nothing left but the coat on her back and the pride she'd finally swallowed. I propped my phone against the mail slot, hit go live. The stream connected. 20,000 night owls appeared instantly, the chat already scrolling. Is that Claire? What's happening? Terms, I said to the camera and to her. $15 an hour paid weekly. No camera access, no social media, no contact with my team. You clean, you leave. Break any rule, you're gone. Claire nodded before I finished the motion, quick, almost eager. I accept. Her voice cracked on the last word. I extended my hand. She shook it, fingers ice cold. The chat erupted, fire emojis, clapping hands, a super chat for $500. Justice served on a silver platter. I typed the contract on my phone, simple, ironclad, witnessed by the stream itself. Claire signed with the pen. I offered the same one Dad had used for the will. Her signature looked smaller than I remembered. Start tomorrow, I told her. 7 sharp. Bring gloves. She nodded again, eyes on the floorboards she'd soon scrub. The chat crowned the moment with 1,000 justice memes. The phrase trending within minutes. Dad stirred in the living room, drawn by the voices. He watched the exchange without comment, then returned to his chair. Linda dried her hands and offered Claire a thermos of soup, which Claire took with both hands like a lifeline. Jake appeared on the stairs, phone in hand, filming for his archive. The family watched in silence as Claire stepped off the porch into the dark, the job application now a binding agreement. I faced the camera, 150,000 viewers strong. This channel began with one truth, I said. It ends with another. Tomorrow we launch something new. Real stories, real power. A network for women 55 and older. Your lives, your voices, no scripts. The chat flooded with approval donations, spiking past $10,000 in a minute. Claire's silhouette paused at the edge of the drive, thermos glowing faintly, then vanished into the night. MC announces new channel for women, 55 plus, real stories, real power. The announcement still echoed in the quiet kitchen when I ended the stream, the screen fading to black on 180,000 faces already pledging their stories. Dawn crept through the windows, painting the counters gold, and I felt the shift inside my chest the moment a freelance ghost became a network founder. Claire's thermos sat on the mat where she'd left its steam long gone. I carried the job contract upstairs, slid it into a folder marked legal, and slept 3 hours with the 40 acres deed under my pillow like a child with a new toy. By 7 sharp, the side door opened without a knock. Claire entered in jeans and a plain gray hoodie, hair in a tight bun bucket, and mop in hand. She moved with the efficiency of someone who'd once directed lighting crews but now channeled it into lemon-scented water. I watched from the hallway as she filled the bucket, the slosh loud in the morning hush. Dad shuffled in for coffee, paused at the sight of her on hands and knees, scrubbing the auction day footprints, then poured 2 mugs without comment. He left one on the counter for her. She didn't look up. I spent the day in the barn, the one Mom had called the summer office. Jake helped string Ethernet, Linda hung whiteboards, and a local crew installed softbox lights and green screens. The channel Real Stories. Real Power went live at noon with a simple landing page, a call for submissions from women 55 and older. No filters, no scripts, just truth. The first video uploaded was mine, a 10-minute recap of Thanksgiving ending with the deed transfer and Claire's silhouette walking away. By 2 o'clock, we had 100,000 subscribers. By 4, 250. Claire worked in silence, moving from kitchen to dining room to foyer. She polished the table where the will had been signed, wiped the smart lock panel that had barred her, dusted the family photos that no longer included her glossy headshots. I filmed the inaugural episode in the living room ring light soft backdrop, a quilt Mom had sewn. Dad sat in the sidebar chair, the one with the worn armrests, watching with the same pride he'd shown when I won the spelling bee in 5th grade. The guest was Aunt Marlene from Cleveland, 72, telling how she'd rebuilt her bakery after a flood. Viewer count climbed 300,350. Behind the camera, Claire mopped the hardwood in slow, deliberate strokes. The microphone picked up the faint swish of bristles, a quiet percussion to Marlene's story. Chat noticed first. Is that the sister in the background? Poetic justice. Donations rolled $10,000 for Marlene's new oven, another $5,000 for the next guest's medical bills. By 6 o'clock, the channel crossed 400,000 subscribers, ad partners lining up with family-friendly offers, hearing aids, retirement planning, craft supplies. I wrapped the episode with a promised daily stories, weekly live town halls, a community where age was the only requirement. Dad clapped when the red light died, the sound startling Claire into dropping her mop. Water spread across the floorboards like a small, reflective lake. She knelt to wipe it, shoulders hunched. The final subscriber count flashed 500,000 exactly 24 hours from announcement. Revenue projections auto-generated in the dashboard $10 million in the first year, conservative estimate. Linda brought sandwiches nobody ate. Jake edited highlights, the mop swish becoming a subtle sound design choice. Dad raised his mug to the camera. "To the women who built us," he said. The chat echoed it in 1,000 variations. Claire finished the living room move to the hallway, her reflection faint in the polished wood. She never looked at the lens. As the sun dipped behind the north field, my field now, I refreshed the admin panel. A notification pinged, small but insistent, new subscription. Claire Harper, $5 monthly tip message attached. For the stories. Notification ping's sister just subscribed with a $5 tip. The 1 year had passed since Claire's $5 subscription pinged in the dark, and the Northfield had transformed into a living heartbeat of stories. The pond where we once skipped stones now reflected a glass-walled studio, solar panels glinting like scales. Inside, women over 55 filled every corner. Former nurses recounting midnight shifts, widows rebuilding after hurricanes, grandmothers launching businesses from kitchen tables. Real stories. Real Power aired 3 times daily. Subscriber count steady at 8 million revenue, north of 12 million after taxes. The farmhouse kitchen remained, the heart-ring lights replaced by natural light, the dining table extended to seat 20. Claire arrived at 6 every morning, key on a lanyard, uniform pressed. She dusted sound baffles, wiped camera lenses, brewed coffee strong enough to wake the dead. Her apology segment had aired 6 months in 5 minutes, no makeup reading from a script I'd approved. "I built an empire on deception," she said to the lens, voice steady. "I'm sorry to my family, my viewers, myself." The network paid her $5,000 for the exclusive, enough to cover 3 months' rent on the studio apartment above the feed store. Chat forgave in waves. Some never did. She didn't ask for more. Thanksgiving dawned crisp, the studio buzzing with prep for the holiday special. Dad carved the bird in the new carving station apron, reading, "World's Proudest Dad." Jake directed B-roll. Linda arranged centerpieces of wheat and cranberries. Guests arrived by van, 10 women from the network, ages 60 to 82 each, with a dish and a story. The table groaned under turkey, cornbread, tamales, and a Jell-O salad that wobbled like nostalgia. Cameras rolled from 3 angles, subscriber count live in the corner, 8, 247, 112. I took the head chair, the same one Dad had occupied for decades. Claire moved behind me, setting plates with the precision of a former director, Wedgwood china cloth napkins folded into turkeys. She wore the gray uniform, now name tag reading C. Harper, Facilities. No one commented. The chat simply noted, "Poetic," and moved on. Dad raised his glass of cider. "To the women who keep the world turning." Glasses clinked. Stories began. Marlene's bakery flood, a retired pilot's solo flight at 70, a librarian who'd smuggled books during wartime. Laughter filled the rafters. Claire refilled water glasses, her reflection faint in the polished silver. When the main course ended, she cleared quietly, stacking plates with the soft clink of someone who'd learned silence. The dessert course featured her pecan pie recipe from Mom's index cards, crust flaky, filling sweet with a hint of bourbon. She served slices without ceremony, accepting compliments with a nod. The chat crowned it redemption pie. The final segment was mine. I stood, camera zooming slow. 1 year ago, this table held lies. Today, it holds truth. The women applauded, Dad's eyes misty. Claire paused at the sidebar tray, balanced, listening. I smiled to the lens, 8 million strong. Next Thanksgiving, who's bringing the turkey? MC smiles to camera. Next Thanksgiving, who's bringing the turkey? The question lingered in the studio air. 8 million viewers leaning forward in their chairs across the country. But I let the silence stretch just long enough for the weight of a year to settle. The women at the table smiled back at me. Forks paused over pie eyes, bright with the kind of recognition that only comes after decades of being unseen. Dad lifted his cider in a small salute. Claire stood at the sidebar tray, balanced on one hip, the gray uniform blending into the shadows. The chat scrolled with guesses: Marlene with her famous roasted bird, the pilot with venison from her last hunt, the librarian with a vegetarian twist. I raised my glass to the camera. Answers next year. For now, we have one more story to tell. The feed cut to a pre-recorded segment: soft piano underscoring black and white photographs, mom at 25, typewriter on the kitchen table. Me at 12, notebook in hand. Claire at 16, directing neighborhood kids in a backyard play. Narration in my own voice explained the legacy fund. 50% of network profits, $6 million this fiscal year, now seeded the Harper Truth Scholarship awarded annually to women over 55, pursuing journalism degrees or mid-career pivots into investigative reporting. The first cohort had already been selected: a retired paralegal exposing elder fraud in Florida, a former factory worker documenting labor violations in the Rust Belt, a grandmother in Oregon training drones to map wildfire damage. Their acceptance videos played in montage, tears and laughter mingling. The donation was irrevocable, written into the network charter, ensuring the money would flow long after any of us left the table. When the lights came up, the women applauded Dad loudest of all. Claire set the last water glass. Her movements precise, then retreated to the kitchen without a word. The chat crowned the fund with golden hearts pledges, pushing the scholarship past $7 million before dessert ended. I wrapped the special with gratitude, the women waving goodbye as vans pulled away into the dusk. The studio emptied until only family remained. Dad dozing in his chair, Jake packing cables, Linda rinsing pie plates. Claire emerged with a damp cloth, wiping the extended table leaf by leaf, the wood gleaming under her care. A notification chimed on the main monitor, soft but insistent. Community post. Claire Harper. I clicked. The letter loaded, simple text on a plain background, no thumbnail, no hashtags. To the Real Stories community it began. 1 year ago, I sat at this table as a liar. Today, I clean it as an honest woman. I learned from the best, my sister Elena, who turned pain into purpose and betrayal into opportunity. The scholarship fund is her gift to the world. This letter is mine. Thank you for teaching me that truth, not views, builds a legacy. She signed it with her full name, no emojis, no call to action. The post garnered 1 million likes in an hour, the top comment from the Florida paralegal. Welcome to the table, Claire. Dad read it over my shoulder, eyes misty. She'll be all right, he murmured. Claire finished the table, hung the cloth on its hook, and clocked out with a quiet nod. The north field outside the window glowed with string lights, the studio a beacon against the dark. I opened the live dashboard for the final frame. 1 million viewers, exactly every profile verified as female 55 or older. Their faces filled the mosaic feed, wrinkles, earned smiles, hard-won stories ready. I leaned toward the camera, the head chair solid beneath me. Season 1 ends here, I said. But the table is always set. Season 2 begins now. The chat erupted with names, locations, pitches. I smiled the same smile Mom wore when the harvest came in perfect. Who's next at the table? The question hung in the air like the final note of a hymn. 1 million women over 55 leaning in from living rooms, kitchens, and hospital beds across the country, their faces a mosaic of silver hair and hard-earned wisdom. Dad's eyes glistened in the sidebar chair, Jake's cables coiled neatly behind him, and Claire's reflection flickered in the polished tabletop as she hung the dishcloth with the quiet finality of someone who had finally learned her place. The Northfield studio lights dimmed to a warm amber, the pond outside mirroring a sky full of stars that hadn't changed since Mom taught us to wish on them. I leaned closer to this camera, the head chair creaking softly beneath me, and spoke directly to every woman who had ever been told her story was over at 50, 60, 70. You've watched me turn a table of lies into a network of truth. Now it's your turn. Hit that subscribe button right now, join the 8 million who have already claimed their seat. Drop your age, your city, and the one story you've never told in the comments below. The most compelling pitch becomes our Season 2 premiere. Marlene from Cleveland started with a flooded bakery. the paralegal in Florida, began with a single fraudulent bill. Your voice could be next. The chat ignited instantly. 68. Tucson. I exposed a nursing home scam. 72. Boise. I flew cargo planes at 65. 59. Atlanta. I built a tiny house village for widows. Each comment carried a thumbnail of a life lived fully, fiercely, unapologetically. Super chats rolled in: $10 for courage, $50 for solidarity, $100 for the woman who'd just lost her husband but found her fire. Dad raised his cider one last time. To the next chapter he toasted, and the women echoed it in 1,000 variations across the feed. Claire stepped into frame for the final second, placing a single candle in the center of the table unlit, waiting for the next storyteller to strike the match. The viewer count locked at 1 million, exactly, every profile glowing with the quiet power of women who had outlived every doubt. I smiled the same smile that had carried me from a one-bedroom in Chicago to 40 acres of possibility. Season 2 starts when you do. Subscribe, comment, bring your truth. The table is set. Who's next? Hit subscribe. Now share your story in the comments, and let's fill Season 2 with the voices the world tried to silence. Your like, your share, your subscription keeps this network alive. Together we prove the story never ends at 55.